What I'm going to talk about today is happiness and the practice of happiness. I think happiness is our birthright, one that we forget as we grow older, that we actually start out happy. When in the 1950s, apparently, we laughed for something like 400 times a day. I think you'd have a backache and a stomach ache. We laughed for like 15 minutes a day, everybody in the 1950s. Now, we laugh about 6 minutes a day. And I don't know if anyone in this audience has laughed 6 minutes today. It's been a good day for it. We only laugh 100 times a day. I actually think most of us don't laugh that much at all. A few years ago, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Turin, and a friend of mine said to me, made a comment, and I made a comment back to him. And he said, "Bill, you're a whinger." I said, "I beg your pardon?" I actually consider myself to be a really bright, positive, confident, outgoing person. So I was shocked. And I thought about what he said good and hard and for a long time later. And I realised that all of us are taught the language of negativity. Easy for us to say what we didn't like about that movie we saw last week than it is to say what we liked about it. It is easier for me to say about TEDx here what annoys me about him than what it is that I like about TEDx. So really, we're all equipped with the language of negativity. So I try to change my life and be consciously positive. Everyone says being positive is much easier. I think it's actually much harder work. I have to actually work hard at being positive. I have to work hard at having a sensational attitude. Anyone who knows me knows that that's my word, sensational, even if I'm not really feeling it. Now, the thing is, when we fake being happy, we actually start to be happy. The body is tricked by our mind. I went off to India and I started laughing yoga. And laughing yoga is about laughter for no reason. And so in our society, when we laugh, we use laughter as a form of one-upmanship. It could be why I'm better than Peter over here, because I got a joke, Peter didn't get it. It could be cultural. It could be against the Irish. It could be against everyone. And I know that when I was a tour guide, certain cultures were certainly much happier than other cultures. For example, the Italians. The Italians were always great fun to have on tour. Glaswegians were always fabulous fun to take away on tour. I won't mention who the negatives were in case there's any English people in the audience. But when we look at children laughing, we laugh because I've just hopefully made a good joke. But when we look at children laughing, they're laughing because they're happy. So what happens is when we smile, we can actually get that sense of happiness back into us. And happy people live longer. You can look at, if you go home tonight or over the next week and drag out your primary school photos, you'll be able to look at those photos and see who will live the longest by the happiness on their faces that you can see in those photos. We can work out that people with good social skills and good social networks live longer. So when we fake laughter, we're faking a happiness. When we smile, it's a particular sort of smile. We crinkle up the corners of our mouth and our eyes wrinkle. And our brain actually thinks we're happy. Now, you're all doing it now. I look out and I see a sea of smiling faces. Laughter is, and happiness is contagious. It's like yawning. I bet you if I yawn now, let's have it. It's not part of my speech. So, okay, if we fake happiness, we do this. Our brain starts to think that we're happy and starts to release happy drugs into our body. Melatonin, serotonin, and things like that. Now, melatonin is a major life-extending drug. We can get a lot out of having a lot of melatonin in our life. So what I would do, and my partner and I would do after going to India for this course, is we would sit around and we would practice laughing. But what it does is you're actually changing your body chemicals. You're actually playing with your body chemistry. So when I get depressed, which I occasionally get depressed, when I get depressed, I'll start to manipulate my own body chemistry. I'll put on Shrek, for example. Now, I think Shrek is a great... Forget all the money you spend on counsellors. I hope there's no counsellors in the audience. But Shrek, hi Brenda, but Shrek can save us a lot of money, really. So I put on Shrek because even if I really want to maintain that bad mood, and I have the choice, I am in charge of what goes on inside my body. I am what you are what you eat. I'm not quite delicious. I'm more crunchy nougat. Where has she gone? But Even if I don't want to be happy, I'll look at Shrek. I'll do that occasionally, and next thing you know, I'm fiddling with my body chemistry and I'm feeling happy. It takes a while, and if we practice being happy every day for ages, it would actually become a permanent feature because the body would produce those drugs much simpler. But I use that laughter thing in quite a number of ways. For example, let's say, man, what's your name? Yes, Michael. Okay, let's say Michael. Let's say I'm going to Michael's place for dinner. Michael and I, we're really good friends. Now, even though I've just learned his name, I really enjoy Michael's company and that of his wife. What's her name? Karen. Michael and Karen, we're like that. Come around for dinner on Friday night. And and so I've had a really busy week. I've had a hard week. And the last thing I want to do this Friday night is actually go around to Michael and Karen's place. Not through any fault of them. Karen's a great cook. Michael's good at dishes. But, they're not. So I turn up, and on the way to Michael's house, I'll sit in the car and I'll laugh at myself. Maybe you can all do it with me, just for a couple of laughs. Now already, you're manipulating your body chemistry. It doesn't matter what I say or do, you are all making yourselves feel better. So by the time I knock on the door of Michael and Karen's, ding dong, or knock knock, they'll come out, Michael, Karen, Bill, come in. In 2 hours I'll fall in a heap and have to go home early, but it won't matter. No, it doesn't actually fix your problems to laugh for no reason, but it does repackage the way you think about your problems. So, for example, my father recently died suddenly. He was in for day surgery, and they nicked something wrong and he bled to death on the hospital table in the Royal Melbourne, which seems a strange thing to happen in the Western world. And we're going to my dad's funeral, and my partner was there, my daughter and brother-in-law, and I said, well, we're all dressed in our funeral clothes, which are fairly similar to what I'm wearing now. And I said, well, let's practice laughing. So we all sat in the car, and you can all do it with me again, and we laughed on the way to the funeral. I was the happiest person at the funeral. It didn't solve anything, but it gave me the strength and the energy to turn up and be positive for the people for whom I cared and who are around me. Now, one of the things I wanted to do today is happy people live longer. And I was wondering if you'd be curious to find out who in this audience here today is the happiest amongst us. Are you interested in that exercise? Yes, of course you are. What I'd all like you to do is to stand up. Everybody stand up. Now, I'm going to ask 3 questions. There's no way to get out of them, but if you believe in a God, any sort of God or any number of gods, remain standing. Okay, a good part of you. If you do any form of volunteer work, it could be the football club, it could be proofreading a newsletter, it could be anything, remain standing. Okay. If you're in a relationship, it doesn't even have to be a happy relationship, but if you're in a relationship, remain standing. Well, I wonder if, there we go, let's do a round of applause, because these people are the people, thank you, these people are the people who are going to live, sit down, you two, sit down. These people are the people who are going to live longest. Why? Notice I didn't mention health, I didn't mention education, I didn't mention the third thing, which I've forgotten. It's about in a partnership. It matters to somebody whether you live or die. The afterlife thing is about having meaning in your life. And the volunteering thing is all about giving your life up for other people, however small a case it might be. So the practice of laughter is actually quite a genuine and real activity. When we get depressed, all these negative drugs enter our heads, and if we're depressed long enough, and because we've all seen it in our friends, those drugs become predominant. If we laugh a lot, we get all these legal drugs entering our body, and those drugs become predominant as well. Okay, so what I'd like to do is maybe we could do 3 exercises. Now the point, I could stand here and I could talk for hours and hours and hours, but what I'd rather do is to go through these exercises. I'm not allowed to use the word, sorry Jason, I'd like to go through these techniques with you, where we'll just laugh, we'll laugh for no reason. The problem is you will feel silly as you do it. But when I've finished and we move on to the next wonderful speaker, you'll all feel fantastic. So that I ask that you take away be aware that it's your choice to be happy, and this is just a small thing that we can do to get along. So again, everyone stand up, and this is a warm-up exercise. It'll only take a few minutes. Okay, now we're going to do a big... Do you know it, Christian? Christian, everyone, let's look at Christian. He started. So what we're going to... This is a stretching. They call it laughing yoga because it's basically breathing techniques, and the techniques that we do are all good for the internal organs and all that sort of stuff. But you'll be surprised at how silly you feel, but how great you feel when this session is over, okay? So I want everyone to bend over and dangle our wrists in front of them and to stretch back. And as they stretch back, push this area out, stretch right back and count 1, 2, 3. What a reaction. And you're one of the best audiences I've ever had react. So I don't know if there's something special about... We're going to do this a couple of times more, just so we can reinforce that. All right, Elaine, and we'll all count together. Ready, set, stretch back. 1, 2, 3. Oh, isn't that terrific? Imagine driving to the funeral, sitting there, your dad's just died. My dad's dead. We'll do that for one more time. Okay, bend over, wrestle, yeah, and stretch back. I showed this to a friend, and she spoke about growing up in Melbourne, and she'd go for long country drives as a kid with her mum and dad, and they'd all start, Mum, he started, Mum, she started, and the mum would pull over the car. Now everybody, happy, 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 laugh, laugh, laugh. And it's exactly the same thing. The mother was actually intervening and changing the tone and injecting all those happy drugs. The next one will be, we'll call this the lawnmower one. I hate lawnmowers, outboards. Why won't they ever start when you need them? You know, it's just, if it's shocking things. So we go like this, we go. But before, see, some people really don't want to be happy. Some people really don't want to, and they've left today, but that's okay. Some people don't want to be happy. I did this exercise down in the Whitsundays for the Airlie Beach Rotary Club, and I hope you, if anyone knows there, you pass on this story. So I'm doing the exercise, and there was never a group of people who hated me more than that group of men. They were tiny fish in a very tiny pond. Here comes this fellow, all he wants to do is laugh. He wants people to laugh without actually telling any jokes. People are laughing because they're happy. That's what we do. So I go, yeah, that's what we're going. These men, you know, standing around. I go, and one guy goes, electric. So I'm grateful to the Rotary Club of Airlie Beach for giving me something to fill up an extra couple of minutes on my thing. Are we ready, set, go? Ready, set. One more time. So this final one, I'm going to leave soon, but this final one, I got this from the Catholics. So if there's any Catholic churchgoers in the audience, you'll know it and love it. And there's a particular moment in the Mass when I love when they say something where you go around and say hello to the people who are around you. I don't know, can't remember how it's introduced. But what I'd like you all to do is just quickly to the people behind you, in front of you, on either side, and go, make eye contact. It's very important you make eye contact and go, Can you do it back at me though this time? Are we ready? Demo, do you want to come up here and... There we go. All right, eye contact, we'll do it in slow motion. Yeah. So let's just turn around to the person next to us, make their eye contact, look and laugh. Look and laugh. Peter. Yeah. All right. Isn't that lovely? That's a lovely thing, isn't it? It's. I don't go to Mass often, but that's my favourite part of the whole Mass. So you've got the gist of it. Should we do one more maybe? A quick one. This is the mixing up the milkshake. It's like the lawnmower one. They just give it another name and raise your arms. You go, ah. All right, we'll do a quick mix of the cocktail. Could be everyone. Let's splash it over the person next to us. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure.